afternoon. I hope you've got the energy, this afternoon's energy, after a long morning session. So we're going to continue with the South African presentation. First, Ms. Gloria Mupela will go first, followed by Ms. Tempo Nemavunda. Thank you.
Thank you and good afternoon, colleagues. I am Gloria Mopelwa from the Rustenburg Local Municipality in South Africa. I'm going to try to be as brief as possible because the minister is due to come very soon. Rustenburg is in the Northwest Province of the Republic of South Africa. And perhaps just to skip many of the things that I wanted to talk to, it is a Category B municipality, which means it is not a metro. It is a secondary city with a population of 562,031. This is something that we were arguing with Stats South Africa on, because initially before the 2022 census, we were at more than 800,000 population, but then it went down to 500, and that was questionable. The population has got more males than females, and that is as a result of the mining activity, which is a major economic activity. We have 45 wards with 90 councillors and 8 directorates within the municipality. Okay, let me speak to alignment of what is regulated on, which is the integrated development plan of the municipality, to the sustainable development goals. I will not be talking about all our priorities, but perhaps just to refer to one priority of a municipality and show how it is aligned to the SDGs and the NDP. We have a priority that deals with provision of basic quality services. And we have aligned that to SDG number 6, number 7, number 9, and number 11. And in the National Development Plan, it is aligned to the proportion of households with access to electricity, 90.0% by 2030, and all people have access to clean potable water by 2030, and others. So that is how we tried to show alignment between the strategic plan of a municipality to that of the national government and the sustainable development goals. In our effort to raise awareness, firstly is the municipality is governed by a municipal council. And therefore, we had to take an item to council, which went per item number 12 on the 31st of January 2024. We had just joined in the group that was implementing the SDGs and voluntary local review. And thereafter, we engaged with stakeholders. Actually, we engaged stakeholders, internal and external stakeholders, prior to taking the item to council. And there are other platforms that we utilized to ensure we popularize what the municipality is intending to achieve. The successes as we were implementing the SDGs, we implemented a homemade biogas, which speaks to SDG 13, climate action. This is e-waste recycling. It is just a way of reducing contamination and we are providing the gas to a disability center that is situated in one of our wards. And we are as well implementing the bus rapid transport, which speaks to sustainable development goal number 11. So far, we have 14 12-meter buses. We have 10 retrofitted buses, and they actually utilize certain routes. It is not actually being implemented in the entire area of jurisdiction of the municipality. It only runs around town and the mall and the nearby township. But the intention is to ensure that ultimately all communities have got access to easier transport and cheaper for that matter. I'm not going to talk to the economic growth, which is SDG 8, but we as well have some economic activities taking place in Rustenburg. We have gender equality or community engagement platforms, which we, through that, are looking at implementation of SDG 5, leaving no one behind. And the Office of the Executive Mayor has got a unit called Special Project, where this particular function resides. We as well have what we call indigent registration, where all people who earn below a certain amount are afforded a reduction or given free basic services. We as well have improved social services to vulnerable communities through launching of Disability Forum, Elderly Forum, Children's Forum, GBVF structures, Youth Forum, etc. The municipality always conducts what we call IDP representative forums, where all stakeholders are engaged. We have mining companies, we have government departments, we have state-owned entities and civil organizations taking part in those. We as well have a number of traditional authorities, and we have signed a memorandum of agreement or understanding with such traditional authorities. With that, we are implementing the SDGs together with such traditional authorities. As an example, there's an area which is farming active, so agricultural activity takes place in Ward 36, and therefore we implement the agricultural projects through that ward. And in Ward 5, 6, and 7, that is where a lot of mining activity takes place, and that is where we are engaging the traditional authority as well as mining houses through that platform. Now, I will be talking to challenges encountered during the VLR preparation process. The practice of mainstreaming sustainable development goals in planning while developing the IDP was not a normal practice within the municipality. So it became a strange language when we are engaging internal departments to ensure that whatever that they are doing is aligned to the SDGs. Alignment of processes is now done in a reverse order because we had the IDP prior. Now, in ensuring that everything is aligned, we planning backwards. Directorates are taking time to warm up to the way of mainstreaming the SDGs in normal planning process. And the gaps that exist is not all work within the municipal environment could be linked to the SDGs from the onset. But what we are doing now, after getting a buy-in in all the departments within the municipality, we are sure to have every activity linked to a specific SDG. And the other thing is local government is over-legislated. By this we mean National Treasury will bring indicators that are not necessarily aligned to the SDGs. COCTA will as well bring in KPIs which are not aligned at all to the SDGs. But at local level, you are expected to deliver on all this from all angles. So it becomes a challenge. The other thing is you have mining houses which could buy in implementation of SDGs. But as a result of the DMR, which is what do they call it? It's the regulator. Their social labor plans, which includes activities or projects that will be implemented inwards within a municipal environment, are then limited because we as the municipality will be saying your projects must address a particular SDG. But the regulator will then say, no, this is where you will be going, not necessarily where the municipality would like to see projects going. Availability of data or data limitations, my colleagues have spoken to that. Lessons learned, all KPIs in a municipal environment can be linked to SDG 11. We do not necessarily have to try and speak to all 17 SDGs. But if we look at SDG 11, it addresses almost all other SDGs, and therefore, perhaps as a start, we can implement SDG 11 and ensure that all other projects are implemented as per that. We learned to link projects or programs to SDGs, and we as well learned to set indicators that allows measuring progress and reporting at the same time through the VLR. And the opportunities for collaboration, we say we can embark on green economy, we can embark on agro-processing. We are a tourism municipality and therefore we can collaborate on tourism. Climate change adaptation projects can be a platform for collaboration. Now, the last one that I would like to speak to is that of a role to be played by a local government association. We have SALGA as an association that invited municipalities to apply for participating in implementation of SDGs. But we believe it should not be some form of a choice. Municipalities must be compelled to participate, especially in programs that assist in service delivery. So if we are unable to report on how we impact in delivering services through the SDGs, then it means we aren't implementing anything. So all member municipalities should be compelled to participate, especially in the implementation of SDGs. Expected outcomes, we believe we can strengthen relationships or build a long-term partnership between municipality and other municipalities. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. Can I allow Mr. Mpo?
Good afternoon, colleagues. My name is Mpone Mavunde on behalf of the city of Johannesburg. I won't be long. I will take you straight to the challenges that we experienced while preparing for the VLR. But before I do that, I always open my presentations with a keynote, just to catch your attention. You do not change how people think by giving them orders. but by teaching them and showing them the way. As a young person and the youngest in the VLR process that Salga was helping us through, I was learning from my colleagues, and they treated me as their equal. So I've learned a lot from them. So going to the business of the day, as the city of Johannesburg, um, we have about 5.8 million people, and 32% of that is people between the age of 15 and 34. So that is a very young population. And then 70% of our population is within the working age group, that is between 15 and 64 years of age. In terms of GDP, our GDP is at around 1 trillion rands at current prices, and we contribute about 15% to the national GDP. The reason why I'm bringing this is just to bring the context. Those numbers sound good, but whatever sounds good shows that some challenges had to be, dealt with and all that. So we have gone through some challenges, and also people think that Johannesburg is the economic hub, so everyone wants to be in the city looking for job opportunities, and that puts the municipality under pressure in terms of services. But in terms of preparing our VLR, our focus was not only to assess the SDGs, but to assess how, as the city, we have been implementing the SDGs. And also as a foundation on how we're going to implement and to work together with other implementing departments on, implementing SDGs efficiently and effectively, because we are working with limited resources. So if your resources are limited, then efficiency and effectiveness must be key. So first of all, before we started writing the VLR, we identified the stakeholders within the municipality or within the city, different departments, key departments, and we brought them together in one room and explained to them what we are trying to do, and also to show to them the key role that they can play in addressing and implementing SDGs, and also assuring them that it is not a new layer of reporting, it is the same work that they've been doing. We just need to see how efficient it is and how it aligns to the SDGs. If it's not aligning, then we find ways and we come up with strategies on how we can then align going forward. So that was the key point in terms of identifying stakeholders. But obviously, with a big institution, there's the silo mentality. That was a challenge. But what we did was that we engaged them on a regular basis and also showed them, the key role that they play in terms of addressing the challenges that we have as the city and aligning to global agendas, and also giving them feedback at every stage so they see the role that they are playing and the value they are adding. The second challenge was data collection. It has been mentioned over and over again. But this challenge presented an opportunity because every department is reporting their own data, right? So we saw that there's an opportunity to centralize the data. And when we centralize the data, then it cuts off the time that we need to go through, talking to different departments, and then they take time. But what we did is we created a tracking platform in a platform called Open SDGs. It's free. It's open to everyone. It's open to the public. You go there, you upload your data, and you maintain it yourself. So that platform does the analysis for us. Therefore, we continually track the indicators that we need. Then when we are writing, we just go to the platform, get the data, do the analysis. So we don't have to be bothering the departments and saying, give us data, give us reports and all that when we are under pressure, and it puts everyone else under pressure. So we try and avoid that. And then the last key challenge that arose from this process is community engagement. There's when we did the first community engagement, and from there there wasn't a good turnaround from the community, because as the city we struggled in gathering everyone to come and participate. Simply because people have lost confidence in the government and all that. So whenever we call to say, come, let us have an engagement, let us have a session, they think we're just gonna contribute, but we're not gonna see anything happening. So our approach was very different. The first one didn't go right, and then we partnered with Africa Monitor, and they helped us to bring the community and different stakeholders in the community. And the engagement was very good. And there was a feeling that the data is not speaking to what is happening on the ground, meaning that there is the lag between reporting and what is happening. By the time we report, things have changed on the ground. So when we go back to report to the community was angry to say, whatever you are saying is not true, because things have changed. Things are changing quickly. And there's an opportunity to use AI in terms of analysis, which is quicker and more accurate. And then in terms of lessons and opportunities, identifying key stakeholders in the beginning is key. And also, quality of data is key in terms of creating a credible VLR report. Collaborating with civil society. We couldn't bring the community. We had to collaborate with civil society. So they play a key role in terms of localizing SDGs and helping municipalities. And then also how we engage the communities. It's not just us telling the story and then we publish, but the community needs to validate our report. So how we communicate with them is also key in terms of bringing quality and weight on our VLR report. And then the last one is, there's an opportunity to collaborate with other municipalities and others who have gone through this journey and sharing knowledge. So that is key, and that is what we're doing now. It should not end here, but it should continue going forward. And in terms of our VLR report, as I conclude, is that we are using it as a guide. And we are not just about to write the VLR and report, but now we are working with departments in terms of providing strategy, research in all the key challenges that they are facing, so that we drive, SDGs on the ground. So that is my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, South Africa, for sharing your experiences through the implementation of SDGs. What I hope everyone gathered that one main challenge that we're experiencing, whether it's national or local, we've got a data challenge. And also, it's important to recognize that collaboration is very important for implementing SDGs. With that being said, thank you, and may the program director come through. Thank you.
Honorable Ministers, a very good afternoon. Allow me to write on the protocol as well articulated by the Permanent Secretary during our morning session. It will be amiss on my part if I don't recognize the presence of the Mayor of the City of Victoria Falls, Councillor Thuso Moyo. Can you please stand up so that we acknowledge your presence? And the Town Clerk, Ronnie Dube. I now cherish the honor to introduce our next speaker at this auspicious event, affectionately called the Trinational SDGs Localization and Voluntary Reviews Capacity Building Workshop, which is being hosted by Zimbabwe in general and the city of Victoria Falls. From the morning session, we were all privy to the fact that Trinational refers to 3 countries coming under one roof to share experiences, challenges, and learn from each other. The 3 countries that are under one roof for the following 3 days are Mozambique, South Africa, and the host country, Zimbabwe. I must say in Zimbabwe, at national level, the process is coordinated by none other than the Minister of Public Service and Social Welfare, Honorable Moyo, who gave a keynote address in the morning. And we do have the Minister of Local Government also playing a pivotal, pertinent role through our 92 local authorities in localizing SDGs. Given the time that I have, I would not articulate his resume because I will need a lot of time. However, I will just speak to a few snippets from his resume. The Minister of Local Government and Public Works coordinates all the 92 local authorities in the country. We do have 60 rural district councils and 32 urban local authorities who are to some extent playing a very pertinent and pivotal role towards the attainment of our National Vision 2030. You will agree with me, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, that he has a daunting task to make sure that the implementation of this process, which was directed by Cabinet, it adds a lot of value towards our development trajectory. This conversation speaks to none other than the Minister of Local Government and Public Works in personage, Honorable Daniel Garwe, who I will now invite to the podium to deliver his address. Honorable Minister, the podium is yours. I thank you.
Thank you very much, our Chief Director, responsible for the 92 local authorities, Mrs. Mnuve. The Minister of State for Provincial Affairs and Devolution, Honorable Richard Moyo, is represented. The Minister of Public Service, Labor and Social Welfare, Honorable Edgar Moyo. The Deputy Chief Secretary in the Office of the President and Cabinet, Reverend Paul Damasani. His Excellency, Hugh Maunati, Ambassador of Italy to the Republic of Zimbabwe. We recognize your presence, ma'am. United Nations Resident and Humanitarian Coordinator, Dr. Edward Kaloni. National Planning Commission, Republic of South Africa. Head Department of Planning and Budgeting for Local State Bodies and Municipalities, Minister of Economy and Finance, Planning and Budget Directorate, Mrs. Nilvia Mamuto. Mr. Simon Masanga, the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Public Service, Labor and Social Welfare. The Chief Director, Local Authorities and Inspectorate, Ms. Mnuve, have already recognized you. Senior government officials from the Republics of Zimbabwe, Mozambique, and South Africa here present. Local authority officials from Zimbabwe, Mozambique, and South Africa. The mayor of the city of Victoria Falls, your worship, will recognize your presence. The town clerk for the city of Victoria Falls, we recognize your presence. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. A good afternoon to you all. I know it's very difficult to pay attention after a meal, but believe you me, I've prayed that everybody pays attention. So God has listened to my prayer, and I know we are all going to pay attention. Distinguished guests, it is my pleasure and honor to be invited to participate and share a few remarks on the occasion of this important workshop. Not only from a local government perspective, but also within the broader context of our national development agenda as contained in our Vision 2030, the national development strategies, and ultimately the Sustainable Development Goals. Indeed, I fully welcome this meeting and further believe that it gives us a platform to collectively review and energize our efforts towards attaining the aspirations of the Sustainable Development Goals and our various national development frameworks. In doing so, ladies and gentlemen, it is pleasing that we have in our midst participation of our regional peers drawn from 3 sisterly countries who have happily joined us to share knowledge, experiences, and lessons learned from implementation of voluntary local reviews in our countries. Certainly, this is a practical show of our shared solidarity and experiences, which I believe is a critical ingredient in accelerating regional integration and cooperation. Thank you for your support. Honorable Minister and esteemed colleagues, without further ado, I wish to take this opportunity to acknowledge the journey that Zimbabwe has been on with regards to voluntary local reviews. Our first foray into this noble initiative involved conducting pilot reviews in 2 local authorities. And these local authorities are Harare and Victoria Falls in 2020. And this was done in collaboration with the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, UNECA. From then on, a number of development partners whom are represented here came on board to partner government to build on these early efforts. Thanks to this support, we have continued to realize strong results in terms of cascading voluntary reviews to 14 other urban and rural local authorities, such as Bulawayo City Council, Sishawani Town Council, Bikita and Mutasa Rural District Councils. We are happy to report that your efforts are not in vain, as can be demonstrated by the full participation of all councils at this workshop. As a ministry and indeed as cooperating partners, we are pleased that this initiative further received the full backing of Cabinet, which directed that all the 92 local authorities in Zimbabwe become part to the voluntary local review process. Hence, we have a full house here in Victoria Falls in terms of participation of our local authorities. We are in no doubt that through their commitment and dedication, Zimbabwe will attain its intended sustainable development goal outcomes. May I take this opportunity also to implore our councillors and officials to be always guided by our national development ethos in order for the country to realize the socio-economic development aspirations of Zimbabweans. As councils, you personify government, and whatever you do has inescapable implications on the development trajectory of our beautiful country, Zimbabwe. As I conclude my few remarks, I wish to call upon our cooperating partners in the United Nations family, the government of Italy, and other willing partners to continue lending a technical and financial hand as we look to enhance resident capacities in local authorities so that they fully take on the responsibility of conducting voluntary local reviews. And indeed, through this workshop, we will look to harvest as many lessons as possible from the experts as well as our counterparts from the region to improve our journey to attaining the broader objectives of the Sustainable Development Goals. I thank you, Siyabonga. Attend.
Distinguished guests, another round of applause. You will agree with me that our Honorable Minister is indeed a seasoned local government practitioner who is establishing symbiotic relationships between government, development partners, and the civic society. What remains is for me to register our sincere appreciation and gratitude, Honorable Minister of Local Government. I thank you, sir.
Right. Good afternoon, colleagues. May I have your attention? Uh, Allow me to write on the already established protocol. I'm Mozambique from Ministry of Local Government and Public Works, SDGs focal person there. I will be taking over for this session in terms of the presentations from Zimbabwe on challenges, opportunities, and lessons learned in the preparation of voluntary local reviews. So without wasting much time, the Honorable Minister of Local Government is giving us a direction in terms of how we stand as Zimbabwe. In particular, he made reference to appreciation of the peer review mechanism that has inspired our gathering here for this workshop, in the sense that as sister local authorities in 3 different countries, we are sharing experiences at various levels of government, be it local, be it be it local and be it provincial and national, right? So that was the first point that came out from his address, as well as he articulated the historical road that we went through in Zimbabwe, that we started with 2 local authorities, and it was an incremental approach thereafter. And also the issue of partnerships, he also recognized it, and also employed on our cooperating partners on the issue of technical and financial support. Right, and then maybe the issue that in Zimbabwe, we do have a cabinet decision that a voluntary local review process should be custodied to all local authorities, and we've since done that. Thank you very much. Allow me to call upon Madam Silosius Chaturuka to take us through the next presentation in this session. Over to you, Madam.
Okay, thank you very much. And allow me to ride on already established protocols and allow me to say good afternoon to everyone. It's very unfortunate today I have to speak from one point, which is very unusual of me. Sure, those who know me, I should be moving around, taking stock of who are praying and those who are meditating. Usually I like to see that. But unfortunately today I'm fixed here. So Please bear with me if I don't do it the way I'm used to. But all the same, I'm here to make a presentation. I'll try to be as fast as I can because we are running short of time. So I'll share the successes, the challenges, opportunities, and lessons learned. You want me to use that? And to do the usual. Okay, I'm tempted to do what I'm used to. All right. It's okay. Okay. So I'll take you through those particular aspects with respect to the Zimbabwean context, and us being the coordinating ministry on the SDGs, I will take you. This will be my presentation outline, where I'll just speak briefly on the. Let's move to the next slide, where I'll speak briefly to the successes and also the challenges that we have experienced, the opportunities that are there that we can tap into. Then I'll also speak to the lessons learned, and I'll conclude. And I'll try to be as brief as I can. I know talking is my weakness. So move to the next slide. So what I will start with is that in our 2024 VNR, we incorporated a standalone chapter on the VLRs. And this was our first time to do so because our previous VNRs, the Voluntary National Reviews, we didn't have a standalone chapter to reflect on what had come out of the local authorities. And that we saw as a distinct and a necessary chapter, because we wouldn't want to assume that people will know that these are being done by the local authorities. So we extracted just those key messages and made a separate chapter. And in our 2024 VNR again, we also had a children's chapter, which was also a standalone, which was another distinction from the previous VNR that we also had. But in what I should mention of is that of the VNRs, because that is what is relevant to this meeting. So, and that we did our presentation last year, and I think we received support in terms of what we did. And in terms of our national context, we know that what bridges the local authority to the global is the national. And in our case, what we have done, we have that political commitment through the cabinet directive that we have given in 2020. So we know that that alone, it's actually a positive, because from some of the challenges that we have had from some of the local authorities, they were talking about limited political commitment. But in our case, that level of commitment shows that we have that support at the highest level. And also, to date, we have done 8 voluntary local reviews to date. And we have, that's a mixture of both urban and rural local authorities. Why did we do that? We want to see the effect of whether it's a rural setup or an urban setup. Does it have any impact? Because it's not, it may not be adequate to just assess what has been done in urban local authorities alone without also checking what the rural local authorities are doing. And what challenges are? The challenges the same? Are they different? And it also helps to shape the policies and decision making at the highest level, because we also have a clear understanding of what is it that is happening. And also, in addition to that, we have managed to capacitate the other local authorities, all the local authorities across the country. We managed to capacitate them as the national government, in addition to the support that we had initially received from the UN and UNDESA and the UN country team. As government, in our quest to fulfill the cabinet directive, we went ahead and capacitated all the other remaining local authorities. And as we speak, we are expecting all local authorities to submit their first voluntary national review by end of February. And also, we will use these the voluntary local reviews to triangulate the national data to what would have gathered from the local authorities. You know, sometimes you might get statistics at the national level where we say, for example, we have 1,400 clinics. But if we then try to add what the clinics that are in the local authorities, they should give us that national number, right? So if we see those disparities, then we will see where we need to improve on. And we know that the local authorities are at the community level, at the grassroots level. So they should be able to give us that data that affects them, the development that has actually reached the people. So we really want to see and to enhance our data through the local authorities. Then we have seen also the increased collaboration between stakeholders. As people are developing their local VLRs, we have seen that, and our emphasis has always been, let's use a multi-stakeholder approach. So collaboration between stakeholders has been enhanced, and we'll hear some of the local authorities testifying to this, because we have seen that partners are coming on board, even local participants. They are also seeing how they contribute to the overall development within their respective jurisdiction. Now, as we go to the local, what is happening at the local level? In terms of the VLRs, one of the things, or the successes, is that we have increased the awareness of SDGs at the local level. Because one of the things that we have been doing is that of starting our session by explaining what these SDGs are, as well as the Agenda 2063, how these two agendas are linked and how they contribute to it. So that alone, it has helped to raise awareness at the local level. And in addition to that, it's also helping to strengthen data at local data systems at the local level. Previously, local authorities, they might have been collecting data, but because they were not packaging it in such a way that they know that they will be using this data elsewhere, it was just going in vain. But now, because they know that they want to use the data in reporting on SDGs, we have seen that they are also trying to improve on how they collect, how they monitor, and how they report on SDGs. And their data systems are also being improved. The engagement of local communities. You know, I always want to make an example of that. You know what happens? Normally when people are building a school, a clinic, in the rural or in the local communities, one of the things that they can actually do is to say all locally available resources, they can be mobilized from the locals, right? They can bring the bricks, they can also bring the sand, they can bring the water from even the builders that can locally be found there. They can also be mobilized. And we have seen that alone, it also gives the local communities ownership of the development that they then see. And it's also crucial. So we have seen increased engagement of local communities in developmental aspects. Then the collaboration between government and non-government actors. Now that we have the VLRs, we have seen that each one of us now appreciates whenever they are undertaking the voluntary local reviews through the DDC's office, the district development coordinator's office. They can coordinate the various actors that are operating within the jurisdiction of that local authority and get the inputs of the various stakeholders. And that alone also helps to improve the collaboration that we can have between government and non-government actors. Then local government commitment to SDG has also improved. Because previously, when they were not aware, they were not so sure, they were not even contributing or they were not reporting. But because of this particular program, we have seen that their commitment, and even from the local authorities that have already done their VLRs, you see that they try to make sure that whatever programming that they are doing, they also align to they try to see how it feeds to the achievement of the SDGs, which is also critical. That commitment is also critical. And the support to climate action is also key, because we know the impact of climate on our development. We have had quite a number of droughts, floods, etc. All those climate-related disasters that affect us, it's actually affecting a certain individual or individuals within a certain locality. So the need for the local authorities also to be up to speed in terms of how they can also even disseminate information on early warning is also critical. And also we have seen in Zimbabwe that all local authorities, they have also developed their disaster risk management documents, strategies, so that they are prepared in terms of that. Then also it has helped to build capacity of the local authorities. Local authorities can now report on the VORs, they can now report on the SDGs and the Agenda 2063. So the integration of SDGs into the local governance framework is also another critical area that we have also seen to have improved because of the VOR process. Let's move on to the next. So some of the key challenges that we have seen, I think this one has already been spoken to, the issues of data and quality, the quality of the data that we have. In terms of limited availability of that data, it's one challenge. The data may not be available because they didn't know we need to use this data to report on the progress on SDGs. Or sometimes the reliability of that data. Sometimes you do have the data, but is it reliable enough? Is it not thumb-sucked figures that are just given there? So is it really reliable? It's another issue. And in some cases, we have also noted underreporting. When people are assisted within a local authority, sometimes they don't capture everyone that has actually benefited. For example, I may give an example of, let's suppose you drill a borehole and you don't then capture the number of people that will be serviced from that borehole, or you have put your water pipes or your sewage pipes. If you don't take account of the number of people that are being serviced, you end up under-reporting. So we have seen that also as another. The biggest challenge is on disaggregation of data. Sometimes they do have the data there. We have 500 families that are benefiting from the sewer system. But if I then ask, of the 500, how many are persons with disabilities? They don't have such. Of the 500, how many are women? How many are men? How many are children? How many are youth? That disaggregation may also be missing. So it's another challenge. Then inadequate data collection infrastructure. Some of the local authorities have also noted that they don't have adequate infrastructure, even including the human resources to that effect. Then capacity constraints, this is what we have tried to address in terms of the capacitating all local authorities, but also the human resource constraint. It's another possibility where the people cannot actually report or develop the report as we expect. Then the financial limitations, I think people have already spoken to this. Political institutional fragmentation. I guess I remember there was one speaker from South Africa who spoke about having 9 mayors in how many? yeah, you remember, right? And the other one who spent 3 days in office. So you can imagine those changes, they also affect the implementation of some of these things, these projects that have an impact on SDGs. So those are some of the challenges. And that speaks to continuity due to institutional arrangement and awareness raising and engagement. I think my time. Then what are the opportunities that we can tap into as we undertake the VLRs? We can enhance local ownership and accountability, because whenever you are undertaking voluntary local reviews, the communities that are being affected or the communities that you are undertaking, they should also feel to be part of the process. So if they own this, they can also contribute to the development of their own local authorities. Then also in terms of improving local data systems, now that people, they know that they will be reporting on the VORs, they will also try to make sure that they improve. And I liked the idea that I got from one of the local government officials when we were undertaking our workshops the other time. They said they will mainstream these VORs to be part of the monitoring and evaluation of the local authorities. And that's one way to ensure that all local authorities, they are compelled to be reporting on the VLRs. That's another way. So we also expect the data systems to be improved as they try to improve on their reporting. Then collaboration and partnerships is another, that will be enhanced. We have that opportunity. If we enhance our collaboration and partnerships, we can also do more. International support and recognition can also be another way. I remember our colleague from Bulawayo City, they were actually testifying that they had collaborated with other international local governments abroad because they had undertaken this. So even the other local authorities, they can also tap into international support if they undertake this particular exercise. It helps empower communities. Communities can also partake of their own development. And also, it is also critical that whenever we are undertaking the voluntary local reviews, let's also take the inputs of the local authority, the local communities. What do they say? Not us local authorities undertaking this without the input of the local communities, because development is only development when it's felt by the recipient. Then let's move on to the next slide. So these are some of the lessons learned. One key thing that I'll speak to and skip the rest is the importance of clear communication. Whether communication where we are doing it at the onset or during the process, we need to clearly communicate. Because if you don't communicate, awareness is the first step to action. If people are not aware, they cannot contribute. So if they are aware, we expect their contribution or their participation to be more. So what I want to emphasize on is let's clearly and ensure that our communication is transparent, it takes everyone on board, and we leave no one behind, I think. So this is just my conclusion. That's my way of concluding, to say these VLRs, they are the stepping stones. They are the ones that will take us through to achieve the global agenda. Having said this, allow me to raise my case. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chaturuka, for that marathon presentation. It was quite elaborate. I'm sure everyone would agree. Thank you very much. In terms of a presentation, you can actually agree with me that the local authorities that are going to follow with their presentations, much of their findings, they were summarized in her presentation. So basically, we are going to have more localized findings, recommendations, and challenges from the local authorities that are going to follow. Right. In terms of our program, we are supposed to have a Victoria Falls City Council. It's represented by the mayor, Councillor Prince Tusomoyo, but I'm reliably informed that he has delegated to one of the council officials to lead us into the presentation for Victoria Falls City Council. So let's have a presentation from Victoria Falls City Council. They was one of the pioneers, local authorities in Zimbabwe, when we conducted our voluntary local reviews. I'm sure it's Madam Tomizami. Right, okay. We may encourage her as she comes through. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Motsi. And good afternoon, everybody. Kindly allow me to write on the protocols that have been established before, so that I don't take much of your time. My name is Mozambique Ncube, as has already been said. I'm the focal person for SDGs, the city of Victoria Falls. I've been delegated by the mayor, mind you. So today I'm the mayor of Victoria Falls. Okay. I'll just gallop through my presentation. I won't say much because much has been said from the minister to Madam Chaluka. Everything else has been said. So just a localized version of what has already been said. I'll just go through our first phase in terms of the implementation of the SDGs. We are one of the pioneers of the VLRs in Zimbabwe, being Victoria Falls and Harare. We're lucky to be chosen to be the pioneers, and thank you. Lucky enough, ours was sponsored with a consultant who assisted us in doing the VLRs. And what we did, We started with wide sensitization and consultation, where the goals were prioritized. And our prioritized goals were SDG 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 11, 13, and 15. And as was alluded to by one of the presenters from South Africa, I think the lady from Rustenburg, we prioritized mainly SDG 11, where we realized that if we achieve the implementation of SDG 11, it will be able to link with other SDGs, and it will be easy for us to implement all these SDGs. We held consultative meetings with various stakeholders within our community, including line ministries, residents, people living with disabilities, women, and various other social interest groups. Next slide, please. And then from there, we started doing the review process, which was highly consultative, inclusive, and participatory. The process was really voluntary, open, inclusive, and transparent. Focal persons were identified by the mayor who facilitated engagement with external stakeholders. Next, please. As already been said, UNECA actually assisted us in the VLR preparation, and so many agencies were consulted. Qualitative and quantitative data were collected and triangulated. Next move. And then, sorry, the previous slide. No, next slide. The next stage was validation, where a draft report was prepared, and then there was a validation report where all the comments coming from the validation report were taken into account to strengthen the report. And then from there, our report was produced, and go to the next. And it was published. That was our first VLR, sorry. And currently this year, I'm glad to announce that we have budgeted and we're working on the second VLR as the city of Victoria Falls. And then we started implementing. This is how we've tried to localize our SDG implementation through participatory budgeting and planning. We make sure that during budgeting process, people prioritize SDG projects. And then even in the planning process, for example, the previous year we're doing the master plans, and we're during those master plans and in all the strategic plans that we have, we make sure that projects, SDG aligned projects are prioritized. That's how we've aligned all our budget processes to the SDGs. Government also give us devolution funds, and in all our devolution funds projects, you'll find that all our projects are aligned to the SDGs. That's how we've tried to localize the SDG implementation within our local authority. Next, please. I will go on to the successes that we've seen during the implementation, during our VLR process and the implementation of the SDGs. We've had increased community involvement. You'll find that there is improved governance in our city due to these consultations and awareness campaigns that we've been doing during the VLRs. You'll find that if you go to most of our residents, they are aware of these SDGs and the processes that are this VLR encouraged our community to be active and participate in all these developmental projects. And it has also helped us to improve in terms of data collection. You'll find that we were already implementing SDGs previously, but most of these things were not being documented. But now you'll find that we're documenting it, and this improves our data collection and also fits into the voluntary national review. It has also strengthened our stakeholder engagement. We are now collaborating with our the government line ministry, civic society, and the private sector. And this has also helped a lot in the implementation of the SDG projects. Next. As I said, we prioritized the implementation of SDG 11, that is sustainable cities and communities. You'll find that once you implement this, you link with other SDGs easily. Let's move on. This is just some of the projects that the city has implemented that are in line with the SDGs. I won't go through them. That's water and sanitation, energy, the school construction, nutritional gardens for our community to reduce poverty. We are trying to reduce gully and soil erosion, redevelopment to make our cities smart cities, and we're implementing local economic development initiatives so that we try to end poverty. Let's move on. I think I've spoken about these ones. We can move. And then I won't dwell much on the challenges because I think my sister, who was my predecessor, has summed them all. The issue of disaggregation of data and data unavailability, the financial cost of data management, the financial gap, having difficulties in implementing some of the projects that we have in mind, informalization of the economy, poverty, reduced revenue collection, the pandemic and the pressure that it brought to the health and the other infrastructure, increased cost of living, worsening inequalities, all these have a negative impact in the implementation. And we also have the political cycles. I think this has been said, ignorance and lack of knowledge, low awareness. You'll find that as local authorities who are headed by politicians who come and go. I think this has been said. Okay, let's move. I don't want to stress that point. And then on gaps, you'll find that capacity building, there is still a need for enhanced capacity building and training for local governments and stakeholders to effectively participate in the review process. You'll find that there is still that gap that needs to be filled. And inclusive participation, there is need for greater effort for inclusive participation, so that when we say we are leaving no one behind, no place behind, we mean it. We go to each and everyone so that everyone participates and they are aware of what is happening in terms of SDGs. There is need also for integration with the national planning, strengthening the linkages between local and national reviews, I think. And I summarized how these gaps can be overcome. That is data, in terms of data, disaggregated data to be localized, centralized, and accessible. A use of non-traditional data sources. Now that we are technologically compliant, we move on to GIS. If we effectively use GIS, it will improve our data. And then in terms of finance, we're still looking for improve the international and national aid in terms of grants and all, so that we are able to implement the SDG projects. And then also in terms of partnerships that will improve. And then in terms of political cycles and ignorance, maybe we need to include SDGs in our national curricula, so that even the ECDs, they get to know about the SDGs. When they get to O level, they already know what we are talking about when we are talking about SDGs, so that no one is left behind. At the end of the day, even the politicians, when they come, they will be knowing what we are talking about. Thank you. Can we move to the next? And then the lessons learned, I think we realized the importance of stakeholder engagement from the onset. This, I cannot stress more on that one. The need for capacity building, I spoke about it, and the value of inclusive participation. I think I don't want to take much of your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam Tomizani Mwe, for the presentation. Officially, your role as His Worship the Mayor is over. Yeah, right. Honorable ministers, allow me to proceed with the presentations from Zimbabwe side. The next local authority that we are going to have is in City of Mutare. City of Mutare, they were not privileged to have technical support in the form of a consultant to assist them in the process, but they managed to do it by themselves. So Mr. Mshangwe is going to lead us into the presentation for City of Mutare. Okay, for the next presentation, in the interest of our time, we are allocating each local authority 10 minutes maximum to finalize, to summarize their presentations. So, Mr. Mshango, you may bear in mind that. Thank you.
May I take this opportunity to ride on the protocols already observed. My presentation is going to be 5 minutes. Yeah. But, you know, there are 2 points that I want to talk about before I move to my presentation. And one is that I'm making a presentation after lunch, which is a problem on its own. But what it helped me as I was sitting there, I was, you know, contemplating, and the minister earlier mentioned that you were praying, and I said, the minister prayed, myself, I'm not going to pray. So this is what I'm going to do. I remember the first time that I heard about SDGs, and as a group, we wanted to come up with a way to ensure that we remember the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. It's a difficult task. So we came up with a funny way to remember the 17 development goals, Sustainable Development Goals. So I'm going to demonstrate one, maybe one or two, which we are all going to do. I realized that since morning we didn't do any icebreaker. So we are all going to stand up. Yes, thank you. And for those that are standing, there is SDG number 6. So we want to do a funny way to make sure that we remember SDG number 6. So we are all going to do this funny sign, all of us. And SDG number 6 is what? Clean water and what? And sanitation. To make sure that we always remember SDG number 6. This is the funny sign that we are going to do. So can we all follow? What am I doing? I'm drinking water, and then there is what? Sanitation. And then lastly, goal number 17, which is my favorite goal. So can we all try and hook one another? Yes. So this is goal number 17. Are we going to forget the 2 goals? No. So that was the 2 minutes of my presentation. All right. Thank you. My name is Noah Mshangwe. I'm the SDG focal person for the city of Mutare. And city of Mutare is the 3rd largest city in Zimbabwe. And it's in Manicaland province and close to Mozambique. I noted we have a number of colleagues from Mozambique. Hello, my friends from Mozambique. For the city of Mutare, I think a lot of issues have already been talked about from the presentation of Madam Chaturuka and my predecessor. So for the city of Mutare, I'm not going to focus on the process. Maybe we can move to the next slide. So generally, that was the process. We actually received training in Kadoma in 2023, and then we went through processes in-house trainings on sustainable development goals with the support from UN, with the support from ministry, our two ministries that are responsible for coordinating sustainable development goals. And then the key lessons, so I'll move straight to the key lessons. And one thing that we have observed in the process of producing our VOR is that sometimes you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You need to ride within the structures that you already have. For example, as a city of Umtare, we already had what we call a multi-stakeholder group, which is responsible for coordination of the budgeting process and the planning for the city of Umtare. So the multi-stakeholder is composed of different stakeholders within the city of Umtare. These may be civil society organizations, the government itself, NGOs, representatives of women, representative of youth, representative of persons with a disability. So we already had a multi-stakeholder group. So part of the methodology and the lessons that we learned in coming up and in producing a VOR was that you need to involve the community. But we did not have to reinvent the wheel. We had to ride on the structures that are already there. So it's important as you are producing your VOR to ride on the structures that are already in existence. And then the other key aspect that we learned was that, sometimes as Mr. Motz mentioned, we simply received initial training from UN and our ministry. And the rest of the process we did on our own as a local authority. So it's also important to also identify the key skills that are within a local authority. Identify those skills, identify the personnel, the human resources, and the finances that are in existence, and support those. So while it's okay for us to sometimes engage consultants to do the production of the VOR, but in our case, we realized that we can do this process internally using the staff that we have. We simply had to capacitate them. So it's also equally important to capacitate the staff or the personnel within the local authority so that even in terms of sustainability, because this process, remember, we are not just producing one VOR. You need to constantly, year after year, review. So once you have capacitated the skills that are internal, it means that we have addressed issues of sustainability. Then the other key issue that we also learned was that you need to dedicate adequate human and financial resources towards the process of the VOR. So without the adequate financial and the human resources, this process may become cumbersome and difficult. But you need to make sure that you allocate enough resources towards this process. Remember I said we didn't engage a consultant. We did the process on our own. But remember, the personnel that you already have within the local authority, they already have their own responsibilities. So you also need to create platforms for them to make sure that they produce a VOR because it's a cumbersome process and a very comprehensive one. You also need to, in relation to that point, you also need to identify coordinators for the project. So in our case, we identified 3 of our staff that were responsible for coordinating the whole process, working with the multi-stakeholder group, council departments, and different other organizations. You also need the political will from council management. In the case of our municipalities, you need support from the councillors themselves, the management itself. They need to understand this process. And in our case, we made sure that soon after the training in Kadoma that we had in October 2023, we engaged UN, where they presented online to our policymakers, who are the councillors and management, so that they understand the process, the VOR process, and then there's a total buy-in in terms of working towards producing your VOR. So we received that support. And then, obviously, what is more important, I've already talked about the multi-stakeholder group. It's important to ensure that the citizens are participating in the process of coming up and producing a VOR. That is quite critical and important. And also, you need to make sure that you choose the right indicators tailor-made to your local context. There are 17 development goals. There are 169 indicators. Not all of them are applicable in some instances at local level. So you need to identify the goals that you are directly feeding into, as well as the indicators that you are also feeding into. Next slide. So in terms of challenges, I think since morning, one of the themes since morning is issue of data, the quality of data, reliability of data. I think it's a big problem. Whilst we as local authorities have administrative data that we collect on a daily basis, but the reliability and the quality of that data sometimes is a big issue. It's a big challenge. I'll give you this example. In our, as a city council, if you go to our finance department, in terms of what they bill, they'll give you maybe 50,000 properties that they are billing on a monthly basis. But if you go to the housing department, which is responsible for allocation of stays and properties, maybe they will indicate that in their database there are 53,000 properties. So those discrepancies in terms of data, then they affect the reliability and the quality of data. So that's a big issue when it comes to local authorities. Then the other issue is also some of the SDGs have goals or targets that are a bit difficult to measure at local authority level. That's one of the challenges that we identified, and it's one area that needs to also be addressed. And then the other challenge is that generally there is lack of public understanding and awareness on sustainable development goals in general. It can be lack of understanding even within the municipality itself. As we were doing this process, we noted that some were hearing about SDGs for the first time among the staff that we have, and worse more for our stakeholders and community. So generally, it's a big issue that there is a lack of awareness on sustainable development goals at local level. Next. And then, this is my last slide. In terms of the VOR opportunities, I think we, you know, when you are doing the process, you then notice a number of gaps as you're producing, as you're working on your VOR. And we have also noted that these gaps become opportunities. One of the key area is data. In our case, we have now started to make sure that we invest more in data collection. We've started to implement GIS. We have also started to implement what is known as Local Authority Digital System, which is LADS. We have engineers that are producing and coming up with modules. So it's a digitization process. And through that, we are able to collect accurate information, accurate data, which can then help us not only in terms of writing the VOR, but the data, if you have reliable data, even in terms of your planning, it will become better. Then the other issue is the process also enhances stakeholder engagement and transparency. Because as you are doing the VOR, you will notice that you are sharing the statistics, you are sharing the information, and the stakeholders themselves are getting an opportunity to understand how council operates, the status of the council in terms of its challenges, in terms of its successes, in terms of its direction. So this process is also an opportunity for us to strengthen citizen engagement and transparency. And then the VOR process, again, it also helps to raise public awareness and education on sustainable development goals. Remember, I spoke about the workshops that we had with our councillors, with our staff, with different stakeholders on SDGs. Some were hearing about SDGs for the first time. So this whole process now becomes an opportunity for people to learn about sustainable development goals. And then lastly, this process, again, it enhances local governance and policy integration. In our case, as a country, we we noted that the linkages now that we have with our strategic plan, which is linked to the National Development Plan and linked to Africa Agenda 2063 and linked to Sustainable Development Goals, we noticed that this whole process now, it helps to integrate the different policy documents that we have within the local authority. So it becomes, in our case in Zimbabwe, we call it the whole of government approach. So this process is helping us to align ourselves to the national vision as well as to the global vision. So I think with those few remarks, I'm not sure if I'm past 10 minutes or 5 minutes. Thank you very much. The exercise, you want another? Tomorrow. We'll do another tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We may give him another round of applause. Thank you very much, Mr. Mshangwe, for bringing a different dimension to our proceedings in terms of our presentations. Right. Okay. Okay. Right. Thank you very much, Mr. Mshangwe. So without wasting much time, may we have Bikita Road District Council. The presentation is going to be led by Mr. Morgan Madura. Mr. Morgan Madura, may you please come through on behalf of Bikita Road District Council. We may clap hands for him as he comes to the podium.
Thank you, Mr. Mozi. Good afternoon, everyone. Right, my name is Madura Morgan from Bikita Road District Council. I'm going to take you through our experience with regards to the VLOR process in Bikita. Now, as a bit of some background, Bikita is a road district council in Masvingo province with a population of about 176 people and 32 wards. And of those 32 wards, about 31, in fact 31 are rural wards and only one is a semi-urban ward. Then in that area, which is Bikita, the district is in natural region 4, which is drought prone, meaning to say that most of the years we don't get good harvest. We'll be having famine and challenges associated with the lack of rain. And in the district, there are about 20 government departments that are operating and over 15 active development partners. The concept of voluntary local reviews was actually introduced to us as Bikita in 2022, right? But before that, you can say since 2015, there were a lot of development efforts that were being done by the different stakeholders that I've mentioned there, the 20 government departments, the rural local authority, and the 15 development partners. In fact, these were doing a lot of projects, but it was only after the first voluntary local review, a process in 2022, that we realized or we began to take stock of what we were actually doing, right? We were introduced, as I said, to the process of voluntary local reviews in April 2022. Then when we went back home, we started with meetings just to sensitize all the district stakeholders about the new concept. And that is, we held an inception meeting where a district SDG or a VLOR steering committee was formed, composing of members from all key stakeholders. Then, as some colleagues were saying, we also managed to identify the most important SDGs in our district. So then we assigned different departments to lead in terms of finding information related to those SDGs. So in other words, I'm just saying we prioritize the SDGs, starting with those that are very relevant to us as a district. Next slide. All right, so the district steering committee conducted a number of stakeholder engagement meetings and sensitizing stakeholders of the voluntary local review process. Some of the stakeholders which are in the district, the key ones are agri-techs, local government, women affairs, T1, etc. Then during that process, we also made sure that we engaged special groups like disabled persons, youth, young people, junior councillors, and the likes. So that's all about the process that we did with regard to VLR. Now I move on to the benefits or successes of the VLR. What we learned or what we think we managed as a district, we realized that the VLR process helped the stakeholders to just have an awareness of the 17 SDGs and how those stakeholders can contribute to those SDGs. As my friend or colleague from Mutare was saying, during our first stakeholder meeting, there were guys who didn't know even anything about SDGs. But it was only after this process, the consultation, the awareness and sensitization, that members, in fact, key members in the district, like heads of departments and the like, started to appreciate what SDGs are. Right? As also a success or a benefit of the Viola process, we realized that the process, the Viola process, the engagement meetings and the like, created a platform for stakeholders in the district, all the key stakeholders in the district, to come together and also to take stock of the progress that the district has made towards the achievement of SDGs or Agenda 2030 and Agenda 2063. It was also, to us, a success that the process created an interactive platform for all the members, all the key stakeholders in the district, to have an in-depth expression or discussion with regards to issues that are very important or pertinent to them. So these are people like the disabled, children, and the chronically ill, their views were actually heard. Next slide. Then we encountered a few challenges during the process of VLR preparation. And the first challenge, some colleagues were saying, was to do with the resources. Resources were not enough. Council didn't have enough money to support all the programs. Then, with regards to the VLR process, we were happy. We were happy that as a pilot district, we got support from UN, DESA, IOM, and the resident coordinator's office. They funded our all stakeholder engagement meeting that culminated in the production of our first report. So we thank them for that. But as of now, because we've started the process of compiling or reproducing our second report, we are happy to report that our local development partners, this time around, they are supporting us because the UN guys, they just supported us in that first report and they disappeared. But now we are happy that we've got our own development partners, our own friends at home, like Trinational, in fact, Zimbabwe, Jaros Jiri, Solidamed, Comfort, Christian Care, just to mention but a few. These guys are helping us to fund our engagement meetings and the like. Then in terms of achievement of SDGs, we are also happy that as a district, we are also receiving money through devolution, the devolution program that was introduced by the government of Zimbabwe. This money is actually helping us in meeting or pushing the 2030 agenda forward. Next slide. Then lessons learned. During the preparation of our voluntary local review report, one thing that we realized was that even before we introduced the concept of VLR, our vision as a council, the 2021 to 2025 vision, it's actually almost like trying to address the issue of SDGs. So we found an alignment there. Our 2021 to 2025 vision, a strategic plan is almost like a mirror of what the SDGs are. Then we also realized that the process, sort of like a repetition, but the process, the failure process, is very key in terms of appraising progress made by the district towards implementation and achievement of 2030 agenda. It was through the Velora process that as a district we identified the key SDG areas where we must put more effort. Issues to do with water and sanitation, education, agriculture, and the like. And so also during the stakeholder consultative meeting, participants realized one other key or important thing, that as a district or as district stakeholders, we've got one overall goal. In our different offices, we've got one overall goal, that is the development of the districts. So there was need for us to complement each other or to work as a team rather than competing. We also learned that the local efforts that we do as different stakeholders, as council, as government ministries, as NGOs, the little that we do somehow contributes a lot at national level or even at global level. Then the last lesson that was also we found also important is that there's need for continuous capacity building of district stakeholders. Not only a few, not only the focal person or the CEO and some few big guys. We've got a feeling that almost everyone in the district should understand and embrace these two economic frameworks, the 2030 agenda and agenda 2063. Can you move on? Then we've got two recommendations. Then these recommendations are directed to our national secretariat, who are saying that, yes, we participated in this as a pilot districts, but for the districts that are coming, can you make sure that for informative purposes, you provide local authorities with simplified guidelines on how reports must be prepared? I think that's very important, because some of us were just guessing. But fortunately, we are happy through the work of God, we produced something that was very meaningful. Then also, few, like what the other guys were saying, there's need for standardized reporting templates for all participating purposes, for the purpose of comparing. Or somebody writing a report in Bikita may just overemphasize success or exaggerate reporting on success. But if you go on the ground, you see that the one who was in Lupani and maybe reporting as if nothing has happened, meaningful, would have actually scored better than the one in Bikita. That can only happen if there is no standardized reporting templates. Right, as a conclusion, we feel that this process, The VLR process is a very important process, not only for local authorities, but also for the country, for the nation, because it is the only way through which we can see that or evaluate our efforts in terms of as far as Agenda 2030 and 2063 is concerned. I think then the last point, we are saying the intervention need to ensure inclusivity through participation involvement of critical social sectors. I've already said this. So I think with those few words, I can say thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Madura, for the presentation from Pikita. Thank you once again. I would like to assure you that for the voluntary local reviews, provincial trainings that were conducted, we were issuing, we shared with local authorities a standardized template in terms of reports. So thank you very much for the presentation once again. Right, without wasting time, allow me to call upon Sito of Bulawayo to lead us into the next presentation. And to do that, Mr. Moy is going to take us through the presentation for Sito of Bulawayo. Thank you. Over to you, Mr. Moy.
Thank you very much, Director of Proceedings. I'm going to make a presentation for the city of Bulawayo, and I'm going to try to summarize it because I know that it's very long, but I'll try to summarize. If you go to the next slide, we have to move with the speed so that at least I cover everything that I have here. The first slide, it will show you the profile, the introduction, localization of SDGs, methodology for VLR, the progress of SDGs, means of implementation, all those things that he is listing, that's what I'm going to share with you. That's the process that we followed as the city of Bulawayo. City of Bulawayo is, we were not piloting, but we were actually doing it. That's the difference with the other local authorities. It's very important to understand of someone who has done it and someone who is practicing to do it. So that's the difference between us and the other local authorities. If you go to that slide, it's just showing you the city of Bulawayo, which is the second largest city in Zimbabwe, and is surrounded by Mount North. And then the next slide is showing the demographic. If you look at the number of women and the men compared, if you compare, you can see that. And then the history about Bulawayo is just a summary there, and you'll get it. And our population is, I think, is the 10th slide. Move with me, my friend. Right. The 10th slide, where they are talking about the population of Bulawayo, which is 665,940 in terms of Zim stats, and move. I think we are behind with 2 or so slides there. Right, then the vision, the mission of the city of Bulawayo is given there. It's just for your information. The slide that I want to explain to you is on the commitments to SDGs. The commitment to SDGs, when we embarked on this process of localizing the SDGs, the first thing that we have done as the city of Bulawayo was to link up the SDGs to the global agenda. Go to the next slide. I think it's summarizing everything there. If you look at that slide, on top there, we have got the SDGs, and then we have got Vision 2030, we have got Africa Agenda 2063, the NDS 1, and then the Council strategy, which is our corporate strategy. If you take this slide, we have linked the corporate strategy to NDS 1, we have linked to the national agenda, which is 20 national agenda, which is the national blueprint, which is NDS 1, and then Vision 2030. Then what we have done, we have come up with a simple way of linking these things. We have come up with what we call Quad 6. If we say Quad 6 to anyone from Bulawayo, here we are summarizing the SDGs, these six pillars, which are summarizing the SDGs at global level. That's the first quad, the first 6 that you get. You have got these 6 pillars, and then you go to Vision 2030 now. Vision 2030, it has also 6 pillars of those SDGs. That's the first, second quad, the second 6 that you get there. Then when you go to national priority areas, we have grouped the national priority areas into those 6 again areas. Then when you go to the corporate strategy, you get the corporate strategy into 6 programs. So when we talk about the Quad 6 in Bulawayo, we are talking about globally, nationally, and then even at council level. This is how we have tried to understand the whole process of SDGs, and we call it linkages, how we link our SDGs with the corporate strategy. Then the process now, which is very critical, the first process which we embarked on was a VLR process when we started with the a hybrid of dormant and hub and spoke model. This is the process that we embarked on, that we used when we are doing our VLR. You know, there are many processes that you follow. So for Bulawayo in 2022, when we embarked on this process, that's the process that we used there. And then we had some consultations, and this road is actually showing you the process that we followed as the city of Bulawayo. But the key thing, which I'm not seeing there, I don't know what happened. Can you press? Yeah. Yep. The last slide, the last step there, that's when we submitted, we did our what do you call it, a validation process. After the validation process, then we submitted our report for approval. And that's the status for 2022 there when we started that process. And then this process, when you talk about voluntary review process, it has 3 stages which we followed. And we followed what we call the African voluntary local review process. That's the process that we followed. I think you jumped that stage, which is also critical. You can go back to that's the 3 stages that we followed as the city of Bulawayo. The African voluntary local review process, which includes 3 stages, of which the first stage is shown. If you look at the second diagram, this is the second diagram that we followed. There, the first stage, we will look at stakeholder engagement. I have already explained that we had some processes where we're engaging different stakeholders, and then data collection and data, the validation of data, and up to the last stage when we submitted the document, the final document. What were the steps that we were taken to develop the voluntary review? Those were the steps I think I've already explained, and this gentleman was looking at those steps, and it was Bulawayo when we wanted to do that. And then in embarking on these processes or the stages, we also used what we call GIS and GIS system for the information. And in fact, we did these consultations with different stakeholders. At the same time, we were using the GIS to get part of the data that we wanted to really see the processes. The next stage, next slide is just the processes. Is explaining each process in detail, which is phase 1 and phase 2, and then this one is just for your V11, which is the picture. You are a bit slow. move me. Yeah, this is when we were doing the consultations with the different stakeholders there. And then the next slide is when we were showing the GIS map after this is the survey that we had taken when we were embarking on gathering data. Right. Then when we consulted the stakeholders, we ended up saying, let's look at key sectors which we want to target as the city of Bulawayo. And the key sectors that we wanted to, or the SDGs that we were targeting, really from the 17 SDGs. We are doing all the 17, you'll see in my next slide. But these are the 3 ones which we selected. The first one it has to do with the healthy, and then water, and then economic growth. And we thought that these ones, if we embark on these ones, we'll achieve our goals. The next slides, generally, they are showing you what we have done in 2022. 2022 was our best year, and from the reviews, the data that we collected, you will see the results of each SDG, what we collected, the baseline, the indicator, the baseline, the achievement, and some comments there. The first one is on SDG number 1, and then you can even go to number 2. These are the pictures showing some of the industries or some of the sectors that we have promoted to eradicate extreme poverty. These are the people that we have empowered, and they are marketing their items, and this is how we think we can then reduce poverty. It's a program that we embarked on around 2022, and we were supported by the Swiss embassy under gender links there. And then the SDG number 2, all those results there, you can scroll fast there. And then SDG number 2, these are some of the things that we have done, the baseline and the data that we got, and up to SDG number 17. You can just stop maybe at SDG number 17, and for the other information, we can then share with you the process. But for this one, SDG number 17, I want to emphasize something important about SDG number 17, which is the means of implementation. In trying to implement this review and some of these SDGs, we are leveraging on partnerships. We have done a lot in terms of partnership, which is SDG number 17. We have worked with the Waterworks. They are supporting us in there. We have also worked with GIZ. They have also given us something. And we are also using Africa Development Bank, where they supported us with that kind of money, around 30 million for our water and sanitation, to deal with some of these SDGs. So these are the projects that we are working with different partners. But now we have seen that it is important to work with partners, especially if you look at all these other efforts. We're working with maybe the agencies, UN and the Africa Development Bank, but now we are targeting the business sector, the private sector, which is the companies, and we are already engaging the Business Council of Zimbabwe in that direction. And then for us to find a way how we can then work with different partners. Challenges, of course, in walking that road, which is very long, the issue of data availability is still a challenge even in Bulawayo. But for us, we have already started entering into MOUs with the different institutions like Zimstars. Last week we had a meeting with Zimstars where we want to enter into an MOU with the Zimstars. We had another meeting with the Research Council of Zimbabwe. We want to enter into a MOU with the Research Council of Zimbabwe. And all the other universities around Bulawayo, we have also started the processes of having MOUs so that we deal with the issue of data there. And then we are also leveraging again on our GIS system to get the quality data that we really want. But generally, the data and the financing of these SDGs is also critical. It's one of the challenges which we think should be addressed. I have already talked about the partnerships and I've explained lessons learned. On lessons learned, my friend, on lessons learned, what we think, I don't know what his computer is doing, but here what I have is there's need to develop a database for this. If you want information, let's develop database information about your stakeholders. There's need to adopt a policy that will help the development and management of big data. Management of big data at local level is still a challenge, and I think it's one of the things that we think we should also embark on. Data gaps from Zimstats and inconsistencies at a local level. I believe once we have these MOUs with Zimstats, we can then address some of these things. And if we have MOUs with universities, right? Some of the steps that we think we should follow. Move to the steps now. Right. These are the steps that we think we should follow, maybe as local authorities. SDGs need a clear financing model which can be achieved through gender-responsive budgeting and partnerships. Without a budget, a clear financing model, it will be just a talk show. That's what we think. And then SDGs sub-committees and risk management is also critical. And joining sisterhood cities such as C40, and there are many other like the Valongo grouping, it is also critical. So we are encouraging that we should embark on that. Utilization of the SDG portal and phased approach in voluntary consultation. These are some of the steps which we think are very critical for us to really achieve some of these SDGs. Let's move to the last slide, which is recommendations and conclusion. On recommendations, we are saying the need to develop partnerships is one of the key things that we are recommending. That when we look at some of the things that are happening in other countries, we think it's very important to leverage on those partnerships. I was very happy to see someone from Tegwini, of which Tegwini and the city of Bulawayo, we are partners. So we are going to, in fact, we have already written a letter, but we will need the town clerk to sign it so that we share our experiences with Tegwini and other local authorities and other from other countries. And then there is need to have a disaggregated data, and this one is very important. When it comes to data, our data is not disintegrated, and we cannot utilize it effectively. And then global networks and USLG, which I have already indicated that is important to integrate. Those are some of the recommendations that we think are very critical for us to achieve certain things. But on these other slides which are coming now, I'm just showing you what we have done as a local authority towards implementation of these SDGs. So this one, my friend, you have to move very fast and very, very fast. And the first one is on this is the Umvumila, which is we are addressing SDG number 17, number 11, number 8. This is a piece of land where we want to develop it into an industrial park. And then SDG numbers 4 and number 10 and 11 is that classroom block. We have already started doing that. And then SDG number 3, these are clinics. SDG number 11 and 3, you see the toilets and refurbishment. This is the work that we have already embarked on during the period under review. You can scroll and scroll and scroll. There are many, and you will appreciate some of these things. Just move very fast and show them some of the things that the SDGs that we are following and that we have done as a local authority. This computer yours is moving too slow. Right. Those are some of the things that we have achieved in terms of the SDGs and all the SDGs, although I have indicated that we are focusing on the three that I have indicated, but those other ones are very important. And then my last slide. The last slide is on the way forward and strengthening SDG implementation in local authority. The issue of collaboration, I've already indicated we need to collaborate. Here I'm looking at even the ministries, the two ministries of public service and public public service and local government. We need to collaborate. The private sector, which is the business council, we need to engage, have MOUs. The research council, ZimStats, because they provide statistics, we need to collaborate. The academic institutions, MOUs, you do the MOUs with those ones. And then for policies, in the city of Bulawayo, we have already embarked on innovation policy and how we can then fund some of these initiatives. And this is also critical for us. Research and Innovation Committee, we already have some of these things. And then the monitoring and evaluation. This is very important. The monitoring and evaluation, how we monitor, track some of these things. Once we do these things, I'm sure we will be able to say we have strengthened the implementation of SDG at local level. In summary, this is what we have as City of Bulawayo. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moyo, for the lengthy presentation. Indeed, you tried to compress it, given the circumstances. And the good part is that the presentation is going to be shared, like it was indicated by Kero in the morning, that we are going to receive these presentations. Thank you very much, City of Bulawayo. Quite a few takeaways from your presentation, I believe, from the members that there were a lot of takeaways that we need also to learn from each other, especially in the case of City of Bulawayo. Right, so the last presentation from Zimbabwe side is going to be from Murewa Road District Council. I understand that it's going to be in two parts within the allocated time frame. So Ms. Winnet Chitauro is going to lead us into the session, the presentation from Murewa Road District Council. Over to you, madam.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Motsi. I'll write on the protocol that has already been observed. My name is Winnet Chitauro, and I say good afternoon, everyone. Okay, my presentation is going to be a KISS one, KISS. I'm going to keep it short and straight to the point. Okay, I will not present the presentation layout. Let me just go straight into the presentation. I will not give the district overview. We are a local authority in Zimbabwe, in Mashonaland East Province, and our roadmap for 2023, we are going to see it when shared on the website, and the VLR roadmap for 2024, and then the issue of localization of SDGs. As other local authorities were explaining, we have the National Development Strategy 1, which we aligned into our strategic plan, into our plans as the local authority. And as the Rural District Development Committee, we are happy that as a district, Murewa, our Rural District Development Committee is vibrant and operational, and that's where we have come up with teams for sustainable development goals. You can move to the next slide. With the stakeholders, government ministries, parastatals, development partners, they came together, that's the RDDC that I'm talking about, and formed the teams for VLR through the thematic working groups. So the stakeholders agreed to adopt those SDGs that are coming on, that are dancing there on the screen. That's the priority SDGs from Rewa district. Okay. Okay. I'll mention one of our successes as Murewa District, the VLR process is the community sensitization, as you believe that the voice of the community is the voice of God. So we believe that working with our communities closely would help them to understand what we mean when we talk about voluntary local reviews. So the first thing was to sensitize them on what exactly are VLR. So we sensitized our communities. You can move through the slides. Okay. Through the process of community engagements, that's where we did community-based planning. Yeah, the computer is, okay. Okay, that's where through community engagement, we ensured that there is community-based planning. Like I said, the issue of projects will have to start from the grassroots. So we also ensured that we left no one behind, seriously considering special groups. As we engaged them, we also had to ensure that even people, the differently abled persons, they understood what SDGs are, and they were also included in the developmental processes or the development planning of the district, okay? Next slide. Okay, other successes include enhanced publicity, documentation of programs and activities, gender responsive budgeting for gender responsive services, policy formulation, ensuring that we have action plans to implement the policies, the strategic plan is in place, and ensuring that the plans are funded for ease of implementation through partnership as well as gender responsive budgeting and partnership. Yeah. Okay, next slide. I will not explain these, but these pictures are just explaining the successes or the results and findings as far as the prioritized SDGs from Rewa District are concerned. So I'll just mention the SDG as he moves to the next slides, SDG 2, SDG 3, SDG 4, those are schools that were constructed. SDG 6, programs meant to address clean water and sanitation in the district. Number 7, solar energy biogas plants, trying to address SDG number 7. Yes, let's move. SDG number 9, trying to address, those are the projects that we have a waste management plant that we did with a partner, the roads, the communication systems, trying to address SDG number 9. Let's move. Addressing SDG number 10, we did disability friendly programs. We campaigns against GBV, gender-based violence, and then also considering the elderly citizens in the district, leaving no one behind. Let's move to the next slide. SDG number 11, to ensure that we have sustainable cities, street lighting, SADC compliant street naming, and ensuring clean cities. Yes, let's move to the next slide. Climate action, creating carbon sinks through planting of trees, and then adaptation measures, irrigation schemes. Let's move to the next slide. Okay, we also worked on SDG number 16 and SDG number 17. I will not dwell much on this. We have programs that we did in the district that addressed those SDGs. Yes, let's move to the next slide. The challenges that we faced are the same challenges that other local authorities in Zimbabwe were facing. So I will not go back and explain them again, but I will just maybe explain the issue of patriarchy, inequalities within the communities. So in trying to mitigate, we are doing continuous engagements and sensitization, designing programs that specifically address the needs of marginalized groups to reduce inequality. Other challenges have been explained by other local authorities. Let's move to the next slide. So as a local authority, we have learned that the VOR process improves the knowledge of citizens on the global goals, such that when they do their developmental plans, they take into account the issue of addressing SDGs, thereby becoming accountable. Promotion of a good and cordial relationship between the local authorities and the citizens as we continuously engage with our citizens. And this promotes development of the district because both the local authority and the community, they know their obligations for service delivery. And then promotion of the whole of government approach and strong partnership in implementation of programs and projects through the RDDC that I was talking about. And then through the VOR process, the local authority was able to identify gaps where there was need for improvement on project management and implementation. Next slide. So going forward, as Murewa Rural District Council, we are going to continue doing our VLRs. We are going to continuously engage with our communities, and we are also going to work closely with development partners, the business community, government departments, and parastatals to ensure that the global goals are achieved. Next slide, sir. Okay, in Murewa, we have now learned that for especially the young people, the youth, for them to understand what we are talking about when you say SDGs, maybe explaining to them is very difficult. We believe in songs, jingles. I have a jingle that I want to play to you. Okay. It's just summarizing what we were doing as Murewa RDC. I hope you can stand up and dance to the tune. Sustainable development goals. Yeah. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Amrewa, for the presentation. Right, that marks the end of the presentations from Zimbabwe in terms of Zimbabwe's experiences. Yeah, it did ended on a brighter note with a jingle. Yeah. So tomorrow, I think we've got two pieces of actions that we may deploy when we see that people are getting tired. Yeah, Mr. Mumshangwe from Mutare has just got himself a job to demonstrate other SDGs. So the next presenters tomorrow, they need to know that if there's need for some break, they will call upon Mr. Mshangwe. And in other instances, we call upon the jingle from Rewan. Right. So thank you very much. I think that marks the end of my role here as the chair for this session. I will now hand over to Madam Chaturuka to guide us in terms of how we are proceeding from here.
All right, hi everyone. I know you're all beat up, so we are trying to accommodate your physically abused bodies. We had planned to split the session for Mozambique into two. but following discussions with our colleagues from Mozambique, they want a continuous uninterrupted session. So which means we will end today at this hour, but tomorrow we start at 8 in the morning. And what we will try to do is squeeze as much as possible our morning program until, because the afternoon session we have people from New York will be presenting virtually. We cannot tamper with that. So we will take maybe from some of the sessions tomorrow, we will take maybe 15 minutes or 30 minutes. Our coffee break in the morning, you will have to go get your coffee from outside and come and sit. So hopefully if we do that, we should be able to catch up. But otherwise we can give ourselves a much needed break. So I think I have a few more announcements, or you have some more. First, somebody forgot this in the dining, so if you forgot your glasses, they will be here. And then we also had a chat with the hotel management. For those who would want to join us for a group dinner tomorrow at Boma. Boma is a very famous restaurant in Victoria Falls for cultural festivities. Please, can you indicate your name? So I would say that for South Africa, you can give your name to Silondile. And for Mozambique, Nilvia, right? For Zimbabwe, you can either give to Banda or, right? Or Silocious. But they want the number today. They need to make a reservation for us tomorrow. In terms of transport logistics, they can organize their transport to pick you from wherever you're staying. If you're staying at one of the lodges around the city, it's $5 to go, $5 to come back from the restaurant. So you'll be looking at about $10 for your transport. So they will have vans. It starts at 6:30 up to about 10 p.m. So if you want to really enjoy the Boma, that's what you are looking at. So please, if you can quickly indicate, I'm coming to there. So unfortunately, they don't have a discount. I think it's about $50, right? But it's worth it. And then for those who want to go and see the Victoria Falls, we will finish at 1 p.m. on Thursday afternoon. So which means you will have sufficient time to go and check the Victoria Falls. You will need about maximum 2 hours. And close to the Victoria Falls, there's also a must-see or a must-visit restaurant in Victoria Falls. It is called the Lookout Cafe. It's one of its kind. You will never see anything like that. So you can literally walk from after you do the falls, you cross over and get to the restaurant. But if you are too tired, the taxis outside. It will just be about $3. They will take you across. When you are at the Lookout Cafe, if you want to do zip lining, they have it there. If you're brave enough like me, you can do bungee jumping as well. So that is what you can do on Thursday afternoon. But if you want to do something different, something which is also very special in Victoria Falls, game drives. You can do early in the morning or late in the afternoon, depending on your schedule. But you can also do what is very nice, which is the sunset cruise on the Zambezi River. Again, one of the most beautiful things you can do. Those sunset cruises, they start around 4 p.m. So if Thursday afternoon, if you want to squeeze the falls and the sunset cruise, you can do that. If you go to the Victoria Falls on Thursday, make sure you carry your passport. SADC residents, citizens, is $30. Non-SADC, it's $50. Zimbabweans, I won't say because people think we discriminate. So for Zimbabwean locals, it's $7. Yeah. So if you have a dual passport, carry your Zimbabwean passport as well. But otherwise, those are some of the most important activities that you can try to think about. But we'll start off with a group dinner for those interested tomorrow. Then the last day, afternoon, you're free to choose which activities you want to engage in. But this is just for you to sample Victoria Falls because the plan is you have to come back on a nice vacation when you get the time. So you can see it out, check it out, and then you come back. I don't know if I left anything which is important, Mr. Chiraya, in Victoria Falls, besides those who like to do nyama choma. There are also places for local nyama choma if you want to do that, but probably we'll leave that. Silocious, over to you. No, nothing. Nothing? Nyama choma is barbecue. Or what you call chisanyama. Yeah, there are some local places where you can go for that, for dinner. Like today, if you want to do chisanyama, there are some local guys who can help us, but they are there. You can talk to this guy. Stand up, stand up, stand up. He will tell you where to go for chisanyama. All right? All right. Otherwise, we'll see you tomorrow. And have a good evening. Thank you.